Hello writers, this is Mr. Raphael. In this video I'm going to help you make revisions to your stories. So I have 4 things here on this page that you can see. These are 4 things that we talk a lot about in class. These are skills that you want to use when you write your stories. We've talked a lot about showing and not telling. It's important that you actually show a story, how it unfolds step by step rather than summarizing a story. We've talked about how you need to think of a story as a series of scenes, and when you write each scene, make sure that you're not moving too quickly through a scene. Slow down, go through it step by step so the reader can actually picture the story as it unfolds. When you introduce characters, tell us who they are, and throughout a story, characters make decisions, and you need to explain why characters make the decisions that they make. So we'll go ahead and look at a draft, and we'll make some revisions keeping these things in mind. Alright, so let's read this draft together and we'll find places to make revisions. So this is a story about the youngest pilot to go to Mars. Her name was Catherine. She was 20 years old and worked at NASA. So we know who this character is. Great. Okay. In the fall of 2013, at a meeting of NASA scientists, there was a problem. It can't be, said Janet. Okay, here's a perfect example of, I think, a writer telling us something rather than showing us. So rather than tell me there's a problem, show me the problem. So if you're in a meeting with NASA scientists, what would happen in that room to make you believe that there is a problem? Now we've all seen a lot of movies and TV programs that show these kinds of situations, and usually you hear noises and lights flash and that kind of thing. So I think I'm going to go ahead and try to work in those kind of detail. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to delete this information and put some new information. So I'm going to delete that. And so what was happening? There's a problem. Let's see, maybe a loud beeping started coming from the computers. There are probably computers in the room. And red lights were flashing. I think if this happened in the middle of a meeting, it would get the attention of the people there and they would all think there was a problem. The writer does a nice job here of having a character immediately react to that. So one of the characters, Janet, speaks up and she says, "It can't be," said Janet. "Curiosity," also known as the Mars rover, "would never send out the distress signal unless something bad happened." This writer does a good job down here in saying that what's happening in that room is the Mars rover sending out a distress signal. So a distress signal would have noise and flashing lights to it. So that's good. "Well, what are we supposed to do about it?" said George, one of the other scientists, right? "Send an expedition to Mars," said Catherine. "All right," said Janet. Finally, George, Janet, and Catherine agreed to go. I think this whole part here happens a little bit too quickly. See, Catherine's our main character, so let's have her play a little bit of a more important role in this scene. She says, "Send an expedition to Mars." Why does she think that that's what should happen? We have to give her a reason, explain why she would make that decision. So we're going to go ahead here and have Catherine continue to speak. So I'm going to start another quotation mark here. "Send an expedition to Mars," said Catherine. She's going to respond to Janet. "Janet, this is not a distress signal. It's a sign that Curiosity has found a life form." Okay, so she's excited that there could be life on Mars, and isn't that the whole purpose of the mission to begin with? So she's all excited, and obviously the reason why you want to show this excitement here is she's probably going to end up going on this mission. So let's just look at that for a minute. So she's really excited, and she will say, "We will be first to find life on Mars." Okay. "All right," said Janet. And then finally, George, Janet, and Catherine agreed to go. I'm just wondering if the ending of this scene is a little abrupt here. Maybe it happens a little too quickly. Yeah, so to help the reader picture this a little bit better, I want to get some narration in here, and I'm going to use narration here to describe Catherine's exact action. She's very excited here. So Catherine rose from her seat and walked over to where her colleagues were sitting. Okay, so she's right. Now what else might she do, or what might some of the other characters do? So I'm using narration to show the exact actions. So I'm going to have her speak again. This is our moment, Catherine said, extending her arm and hand toward Janet. Okay, so Janet says, all right. So I think I want Janet to rise, George to rise, and have them all shake hands. Okay, so all right, said Janet as she stood and shook Catherine's hand. Okay. And then we have to get George involved too. So he says, I'm in too, said George, and then he too shook Catherine's hand. So finally, George, Janet, and Catherine agreed to go. So I think if you just kind of follow these revisions that we did here, we basically slowed down the scene. We didn't move too quickly through it. We wanted to make sure that we showed the problem. We wanted to make sure that we showed the exact actions of the characters. And we had Catherine kind of explain her decision to go to Mars. So I think if you watch this video a few times, make it sink in. And I think if you watch this video and then go to your writing, you're going to be more likely to find places to make these kinds of revisions. So again, please watch the video often, and it'll help you make the revisions you're trying to make. All right, writers, good luck.